God puts us in nations, in places, not by mistake, but to do a job. What if we opened our eyes to the needs of our colleagues, of our leaders, of our subordinates, and we were a priest on their behalf? Welcome to the Repurposing Business Podcast. My name is Brett Johnson.
And I'm Lynn Johnson.
And we're going to be talking about how to get our business into God's business. Our subtext is Let My Business Go, and we'll have guests from around the world. So thank you for joining us this week and every week on the Repurposing Business Podcast. Welcome to the Repurposing Business Podcast. We're in the series of relationships, and Lynn and I will be chatting to you today about this question of, is there a right person for me? Lynn, what's been your experience?
Well, I definitely got the right person. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. We get asked this question, is there a Mr. Right? Is there a Mrs. Right for me? And is there just one person? And Lynn, I remember reading years ago an article on soulmates, and this woman had done research, and this myth of a perfect soulmate, there's one person for me, which almost with a billion people out in the world, billions of people that you might have, how do I find the 1 in 7 billion or 8 billion? I remember years ago you said it was probably simpler if you grew up in a Russian village. What was your theory then?
Well, I suppose you grow up in a Russian village. There's a certain number of boys, a certain number of girls, and you have a smaller pool to choose from, and you're not thinking that you could marry someone on the other side of the world or far away. And I think people's understanding of marriage and just, they don't put such high, not so much high expectations, but there's not so much wrapped into it. I mean, we have many Indian friends who have had very successful arranged marriages, which also means you don't have as much pressure. Yeah. Although I think there's pressure for the parents in that case.
Yeah. I think what we found with this question of is there a right person is that we've talked a bit perhaps about the checklists. You have a checklist in your mind, and so you're looking for somebody who matches in with all of the missing pieces or all of the things that you have in your checklist. Whereas in reality, if you understand that marriage is a covenant, and then you're committed to make it work, whatever happens. Yeah. There's lots of variables, things that happen. This morning I happened to be reading in the book of Job, and Job says in his defense, look, my eyes haven't looked on another woman. My heart hasn't gone on. If I'd done that, then by all means, my fields would not have produced, you could have plundered me, etc. So you realize the seriousness of a covenant of marriage. And somebody has said you go into pre-engagement with your eyes wide open, and after that with your eyes closed, except for looking for the good. Yeah. And I think this notion that there's just one right person for me, but it does become a stumbling block. And we've seen 3 or 4 instances where somebody said, I don't want to marry the person because this one thing is wrong. Sometimes it's a calling question. I don't have the same calling as them. Others, it's a future work situation. Will he let me go back to work after I've been at home with the kids for 20 years? It's like a question that's decades out into the future. We've had others what would be some of the other examples? Do you remember the situation?
Somebody said the girl had fat ankles.
No, not fat, Lynn. Thick ankles.
Thick ankles. And we're like, my word, everything else was fine and she had thick ankles. I mean, it's just as well that was hearsay, because if the person had been in front of me, I mean, I would have done something.
They would have had a thick ear as well as a thick ankle.
Yeah. So I think the things that people put in, now obviously we need to check the person's character, but some of the things that people put on their list may not be actually that essential. And in a sense, when you get into marriage, we've got 2 imperfect people coming into a covenant of marriage, and we're both going to be rubbing against one another and having those rough edges rubbed off, especially if we have submitted ourselves to the work of the Lord Jesus in our lives. That work will happen in a continuous way. So the searching for somebody that has everything dealt with themselves, all perfect, is just not legitimate.
Yeah, so in some respects, getting into marriage is like getting into a vehicle for a long journey. We're talking a decades-long journey. Now, for the first 5 years, you might have a manufacturer's warranty, but you don't know what it's going to look like 40 years down the road. But the fact is, you're in the same vehicle. If you're committed to being in the same vehicle, it's not like as soon as you hit a wobbly or as soon as you've got something out of alignment, one of you is going to bail out and find another vehicle. No, you're both committed. It's like the epic race. You only win if you both cross the line together, stay in the same vehicle together. Now, the couple that we're going to be interviewing this week actually were quite well matched. The families had known each other for a long time, and he'd had his eye on her for many, many years, as we'll unpack with him. But she hit a snag. And the issue was, where are we going to live after we get married? Now, this was a big deal. And part of our response was, you're going to live together. That's the point. You get married, any city. I mean, pick a random city. When you get married, wherever you go, I'll go. We're going to live together. But sometimes, and particularly with Christians, they get a view. She had a view, God told me we're going to live in city A. And he's like, well, that's strange because God didn't tell me that. She's like, okay, it's off. And that became a sticking point. And then Lynn had some wisdom for her, and we worked them through it, and ultimately ended up with the privilege of marrying them, which was fantastic.
Such a precious couple. We love them so much. You're going to so enjoy their story. And it is wonderful. And just sort of a side note, as you journey together, going back to Brett's car analogy, I mean, you don't actually know where you're going to end up. When I married this boy that lived one road away from me in a small village in Cape Town, I didn't imagine I'd
with
end
lions,
up...
with lions
no
and elephants.
lions, but you did have a monkey. I had no idea that we would end up for 30 years in the California Bay Area. So you really don't know. And now in the woods of Tennessee. And but I've just experienced excellent for better or for worse during a recent for worse season after having broken my hip, and just seeing just the amazing love and care that Brett has given to me and looked after me so well. So thank you for that. So, but you never know actually what the journey is going to look like, but you know that God is with you and you're committed to one another. But don't let some of those things be a stumbling block as you're trying to move into marriage in the first place.
So is there a right person for me? Let's listen to the conversation with Abigail and Miguel. Today we have two wonderful guests with us, Miguel and Abby. And when we met you, you guys were decidedly single. And so we're going to chat about some of how you found each other. Now, if I understand the history, Miguel, you've had your eye on this lady, I mean, almost since the cradle, right?
Yeah, it's we're going on 12 years. We were both still in school at the time. 1,200 kilometers apart, different cities, different backgrounds. But yeah, from the first day I met her, there was always just this spark. There was just something about her that set her apart from all the rest.
Yeah.
And even though it wasn't always easy, obviously with distance and being able to see each other, I found that whenever we would meet, there was always just something. Time would fly past, conversations would always flow, and I'd always have this thing in my heart, like there's just something special about it. And then we got married, and it's stuck.
Well, I have to say, Miguel, you had really good taste from when you were really young. So congratulations.
Thank you, Lynn. That's very nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Just because I know we're going to have some girls listening to this. So just talk about your matric dance, which in American context is like the prom. Didn't she go with you to that? How did you organize that one?
Yeah.
So the story behind that one is that it wasn't for mine. I actually didn't go to mine. It was actually...
Yeah, it was mine. So Miguel, my parents flew Miguel down for my matric dance in Cape Town.
Tell them why.
Because they weren't too happy of my boyfriend at the time. So they suggested Miguel escort me.
To be clear, they didn't suggest it was go with Miguel or don't go at all.
So we went together, and it wasn't. I don't think it was that awkward, but it was really good. I really enjoyed it. He was fun to be around. We matched in blue. Yeah, it was really good, and I think that kind of, for me, it was a big mark of our friendship, that he would come down and take me to this dance where he knew no one. So that was really special for us.
Yeah, it definitely was an interesting one for me. At that time, I was already out of school. I was working and everything.
Got money.
And then to go to someone's matric dance. But like I said, there was always that special connection. So even when we'd speak over messages or something, there was always something. So for me, it was like, oh, awesome, let's go. I don't know anyone. I'm not what you'd call an introvert. So I was like, well, I'll take it as we go.
Yeah.
And it worked out. It worked out well for us.
Yeah.
We enjoyed it, and I think from there it really built on, even in terms of our memory, and that it turned out really well.
Yeah.
So Abby, did you have any, like, were you 100% certain A through Z or A through Z, or did you have some rocky spots along the way?
Yeah, no, I didn't. For me, Miguel was I always thought if we got together, he would love me well, but I didn't think we would end up together. It was never very clear for me. It was only when we were really talking, I think a year before we got, no, when was it? We started dating the January, but the December before, I really started to pray and be like, okay, Lord, I see characteristics that I like that could be a really good, solid, godly man and a godly husband. So I need you to tell me, because I wasn't really feeling those desires before then. I just thought he was a great friend. I knew he had feelings for me, but he was in the friend zone. So
yeah, really, like
he was deep in the friend zone. But God brought him out. God brought him out.
Deep in the friend zone.
Yeah, and it was, I think.
I was so deep in the friend zone, I was getting into that brother territory.
Yeah, you were. It's true. Yeah. But there was a defining moment though where our family could see, wow, this man has put in a lot of effort to show he cares for Abby. And it was at the time we were moving houses, and it was quite a delicate situation for our family. And he just so happened to be in Cape Town that weekend, and he helped our family.
I'll be honest. I was in Cape Town in hope of seeing Abby, because I'd seen her, I think, a month prior to that. So I was like, my brother was going to start writing his matric exams. So I was like, well, let's go to Cape Town, give you a little bit of a holiday just before you start your final exams. Also, then we can go and see Abby.
Yeah, so him and his brother, they landed up spending the weekend with us, helping us move. And I think that was a huge moment for our family, saying like, this guy is really dedicated to you. He's using his holiday time to help us move. So that was when I was really like, oh wow, okay, this could be someone.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I should start considering it.
So how long did it take for your feelings to engage?
Good question.
Mine, from the get-go.
Not yours, hers, yeah.
Wow, mine took a while. I think after we started seriously talking, I think it was like a few months. Once I heard from the Lord that it was yes, then I was all in.
But I'll share a funny story with you. We were dating already like 2 months or something like that. And I was like, Abby, I love you. And she was like, thank you. And that's the response I got. So even that took a little while, but
we got there.
We did. And look, I can definitely say since then, I definitely do know she loves me. There's no doubt about that. But just looking back, it was a funny moment. It was like, okay, I say I love you, and you say thank you. Okay.
That's nice. Yeah. Okay.
Good for you.
Yeah. So I remember at the time, Abby, you and Lynn having some conversations.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So how did that go, ladies?
Yeah, I think we were talking about the move, and Miguel and I were already engaged, and we temporarily broke up because we couldn't decide on who was moving. And at the time, I was sure that the Lord was saying Cape Town, and Miguel was saying he doesn't feel peace about it. So Lynn and I spoke the one day. She drove me to the beach, and I think you were quite pressed for time, Lynn, and you made time for me, which that really stood out for me. And you know, Lynn was just kind of highlighting, you know what, Abby, but can you see his faithfulness? You know, he's faithful in serving the Lord in his church. He's been doing this for so many years. You can see. We really just spoke about his faithfulness because I was questioning that, and I found that discussion was a huge turning point for me. And I'm so grateful for that, Lynn. So thank you again for that precious time. I don't remember too much of what else we spoke about just because it was emotional. But that was a huge moment for me. That really helped me come back to, okay, God, I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to really push in and hear what you are saying to me, not what I think you're saying or what others might be saying to me, but what you're saying to me. So Lynn really encouraged me to just hear for myself, which then I landed up moving to Joburg and we got married. So
That we did.
Yeah.
So Abby, I've always admired the way in which you have tried to seek the Lord and to do what God wanted you to do. And I think both of you were really trying to do what was right. And I think trying to just go through the process of just going, okay, what is the right thing to do here? And I remember one of the things that I said to you after we talked about how faithful Miguel had been with his service with the worship team and his commitment to that group of people. I remember saying to you, like, so few people actually stay committed for a period of time in a church context, in a worship band context, or whatever. There's just so much faithfulness. But we're just talking about if we stepped into the future, if you stepped into the future and you weren't with Miguel and you looked back and you said, oh, I'm not with him because we couldn't work out whether we should live in Cape Town or Johannesburg. And I remember that conversation because I'm just doing a little side loop here. I think often when I talk with men and women, sometimes something can become a hindrance in the present, in the immediate, that if you actually pushed yourself 20 years down you look back, you go, why did that thing worry me? I mean, Brett and I could give lists of seemingly stupid things that have worried people. If they look back, they go, boy, I shouldn't have thought about that thing. That was not that big of an issue. But I mean, right after that, you had amazing miracle of provision for your wedding. Do you remember?
Yeah. But Lynn, just before we get into that, oh, sorry, it looks like my laptop isn't charging, so he's just fixing it. But Lynn, just on what you were saying, I'm so glad you reminded me of that. That was really, really impactful for me of what you said in 20 years' time. Are you going to look back and regret the decision because of a city? And that really did help me a lot. So thank you, Lynn, for that. I'm glad you brought that up.
I think just while we're on that, you know, the big thing for me was even everyone up here, I had people saying goodbye to me. We're going to miss you while you're in Cape Town. And it got to a point I didn't feel peace about going, and I really felt to stay. And we did break up because of it, and we got back together a few days after. But looking back, over the last few months, we've been going for counseling and that in our lives. You know, and both of us have really just seen so much breakthrough and so much healing, even in places that we didn't know we needed. Like myself, when we were doing it, we found out that something had happened to me in my childhood that I wasn't even fully aware of. I could see the effects of it, but I didn't have a place in my life that I was like, oh, that's what happened. So even in my own life, things like that have happened, and in Abby's life, we've seen breakthrough as well. So looking back for me, I'm like, Lord, okay, you know, if we stayed for this time and got this healing, in my mind, that makes it really worth it, because that's maybe, I'm not saying we wouldn't get that same healing there, but I can sort of see that through that we've gotten a lot of healing that maybe would have taken us, and restoration that maybe would have taken us 10, 20, 30 years. And so looking at that, I can say, okay, Lord, you know, while you're healing us here, you know, we'll stay, but if you want us to go, we will go wherever you want us to go. But we can see that even through us staying in that, that God really has done something tremendous in both our lives, in our marriage.
There was a plan, a purpose, yeah.
Okay, so
but then you were asking about the miracle.
yeah, the
Yes.
confirmation. Yeah, tell us about that.
Yes. Yeah, so just after we had broken up, I think there was still a little bit of room for doubt, and we were like, Lord, is this really what you have for us? And both our families couldn't really afford a wedding, but we wanted to honor the Lord and do the right thing. So I think it was a week after we had gotten back together and decided, okay, this wedding is it's going to happen. We had won a competition, we had won a wedding, and it was a competition I had applied for in December, which I had completely forgotten about. And then randomly, I just saw a woman message me on Facebook, congratulations, you're the winner of our competition. And we won a whole wedding. And it was incredible. I think at the time it was worth like over 100,000 Rand, which was just, we didn't even have that for our wedding. So it was just amazing. And then when we won, I felt the Lord say to me, this is not the end, you know, enter another competition. And I thought, wow, like if the Lord did nothing else for me in my life, this is enough, you know, this is enough for me. And I just felt the Lord push and say, you need to enter more competitions. So I entered another one, and then we won a honeymoon, and it was amazing. It was just incredible. I think it was like a week or 2 weeks later, we won this honeymoon to Mauritius.
1 week.
1 week.
Yeah.
We won this honeymoon to Mauritius, and both these competitions were not small competitions. They were huge in their own right.
Yeah.
So we were just blown away by God and his faithfulness to provide and exceed our expectations and our desires. It was incredible.
And I think for both of us, it's not like we're those people that are forever winning competitions.
No.
Abby, I think, hadn't won anything. I think the most I'd won was a
My
tie.
heart.
I think I won a tie at like a school competition that you had to draw something for Father's Day. I think that's about it. So for us, it really was, I mean, to win such big competitions a week apart was really a big thing and really a blessing. To this day, it really did touch us and made a lot of things happen. Like even our honeymoon, it was incredible, and it was a great bonding time for us, especially because we had that distance, the long distance. It enabled us to have quite a long honeymoon, because with it came a little bit of cash for the flights, which
we got creative
with, and we put it towards sort of an extended honeymoon. So we ended up staying there a lot longer, which for the two of us was really great at the start of our marriage, especially because we didn't get always that time.
Well, I remember the time it happened and Abby phoned to tell me. I was so excited, and I just felt like God was underlining the obedience and the decision that you'd made, which doesn't mean every time somebody's obedient you win something, but it was as if God was saying yes and amen to the decision.
Yes.
You were trying to do the right thing, and then you were just sort of, you were going through that time of hesitation and confusion, and then you come together and it was like, yes, and yes. And so I just thought, Lord, that is so good and so kind of you to have done it. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was really amazing. I like how you said it, Lynn. Yes and amen. Yeah, it was really special.
Good. And so what advice would you give people who are going through this, is he the right one, is she the right one kind of situation? Do you have any takeaway pieces of advice?
You want to go?
I think for me, one thing it's played a massive part in my life is the thing of peace. So because God is a God of peace, I'm forever in that mindset that if I feel peace about something, then and I've prayed about it, then I know that God is in it. So for me, if I'm a little bit indecisive, should I, shouldn't I, then more often than not, it goes wrong if I do go ahead with it. So for me, it's always a thing of if you're praying about the person and you feel peace about it, that you don't have to force anything, force the conversation or force that person to spend time with you or whatever it may be, then for me, usually that is a big sign. Because just like God, he doesn't force himself on us. And he is a God of peace. So I feel like usually with big decisions like this, it's generally God will place that peace there if they're meant to be. It won't be something forced because God doesn't work that forceful way. He works in peace.
Yeah. I think just pretty much what you're saying. I don't think God is a God of confusion, and I believe he will confirm. Sometimes it will take, no, did it die? Oh no, we're back. Sometimes it will take a bit longer for the confirmation, but I really believe God will confirm. Yeah.
So for you, did the peace come before or after you made the decision, would you say, Abby?
I felt I had the peace early on, but I lost track of it.
All right.
Oh, yes. Can you hear us?
You back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have you?
You do.
Okay,
Yes.
guys. All right. Okay. So I wanted to ask you, so for you, Abby, would you say the peace came after you made the decision, okay, you're all in, or before you made the decision? So for Miguel, it was like before. He had peace and he was on a mission. For you, you got a couple of competition wins. And so when did your peace come?
Yeah. With regarding peace with Miguel, that came early on. Before I went all in, I had confirmation from the Lord. But then the whole thing with the move, I think the peace really came. I think it came before I spoke to him. I had to hear from the Lord first. So I think I had peace first. The situation didn't feel peaceful, but I had peace in my heart first. Before I moved. I wanted to hear from the Lord because I knew we had a lot of people saying yes and no. So I needed that peace for myself to have the strength to say, this is the decision I've made.
Yeah. You know, Abby, I actually remember in the conversation that I had with you, one of the things you were saying was that you were getting advice from so many people. You were getting advice from families and so on, but you knew that you needed to know for yourself. And that was something that we talked about. And I was saying, you're so right in doing that. And I think God can use people giving advice and giving wisdom, but ultimately you have to know for yourself. And so, I really commend both of you for saying, I need to hear from the Lord, and I need to know that. And I love the fact that what you said, that you've had peace within yourself, even though the situation around you was not peaceful. And I think being able to differentiate that, peace doesn't mean everything is calm around us. Sometimes when you actually feel the peace from the Lord, you have to move forward with steps, and you could also get a lot of flack. You could get a lot of resistance to actually even take something forward if it is the right thing.
Yeah, it's true, Lynn. Yeah, so like you said, I really I needed to hear for myself, because I knew that no matter what, I would be the one living with that decision. And I didn't want to step out of line, first of all, with the Lord. And if this was going to continue, I needed to know. So,
and I think that's also been a big thing in our marriage. When we have heated discussions.
I should explain, you're both Portuguese, right? Sort of.
Yeah, there's a lot of passion.
But our version of heated discussion, because usually if we're just talking to each other, people think we're shouting at each other, but we're just when it gets to those moments and you're fighting and you're wondering, did I make the right decision? When you've heard from the Lord, you always have something to go back to.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, and why you have to really hear from yourself, because if you've heard from A, B, and C, and now you're fighting with your wife or your husband, then you don't really have anything to go back to because you weren't sure yourself. But as Abby has said, she felt from the Lord, that she needs to honor my decision and come up here. When we have arguments or something, she has something to stand on that she can say, no, but I felt from the Lord. And same with me, if she gets on my nerves or something like that, I can be like,
I know, Lynn, how?
I can feel from the Lord, like, no, the Lord told me that this is the woman I need to marry. So, we need to push through. We need to sort this out and move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fantastic. I think that's great. That's wonderful. Well, guys, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's a fascinating one, with Miguel having his eye on you for so long, nearly ending up in the brother zone.
I just want to say on that I love the fact that you actually were proactive. You weren't passive. And even saying to your brother, let's go down to Cape Town. And, you stepped out and you positioned yourself close by where you could actually become known by the family, become known in a greater way by Abby. And so sometimes I want to say to people, you have to actually, if you have feelings for somebody or you love somebody, or if you think there's possibility, you actually have to step in and start being proactive as well, and not just being passive. The way to go with doing that, Miguel.
Well, thank you.
Oh, I love that, Lynn. Thank you. I never thought of that. I really like that. Thank you, Lynn. That was something new for me to see as well.
And I think for me at the time, for those that are listening, at the time, I myself wasn't 100% sure. I was like, Lord, I've had these feelings for this person for so many years. And I'll be honest, I was praying, Lord, if it's not meant to be, then please take away these feelings so that I can move on with my life, because it's but I'm going to be here, and if you want this to work, then please let it be so. And that's really what the Lord did. It really just all worked out and just moved in a way that was peaceful for both of us, and just really gave us those answers. I remember sort of doing that thing of, the wool, it must be wet on the one side. I did one or two things like that. And, God really comes through. So, for anyone that really wants that, I really believe if you say, like, Lord, give me some sort of a sign, he really does if you fervently seek him. And,
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for letting us share our story and asking us. We really feel honored that you would have us on your podcast. So thank you.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I was actually just thinking recently about, your situation of asking God, and Joseph and Mary at the Christmas story, just thinking about that. And Joseph faced with a really tough situation. But God actually spoke to him, an angel spoke to him and said, no, this is it. And some people would say, well, this is just a natural thing. You don't have to ask God about it. On the other hand, I would say, if you've had feelings for somebody for 10 years, Miguel, it's that be turned off very quickly. Yeah. So
I use that to my advantage sometimes. Just remember, I've loved you for so long already. It's not going to stop now.
That's true. Wonderful, wonderful.
Well, you are both a blessing to us, and it was such an honor for us to be part of your wedding and to have been there from the beginning with that, and just such a beautiful service, beautiful bride, amazing time, seeing God's provision of all the beauty around it, and for us to see with your precious little Maya and your family growing. And we know that both of you and you as a family are going to have an impact for the kingdom of God in so many ways. So press through when there are difficulties, press through when there are challenges, and continue to grow as you're choosing to do so. and you're going to be able to strengthen so many others. So we're excited.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.